This section is entitled The Economic Problem, and the problem is we have an unlimited amount of desires, but only an unlimited amount of resources. So what we're going to do in this section is we're going to look at our use of economic models. Well, economic models are abstract, and they simplify situations, making analyzing economic concepts easier. So these are very unrealistic models. We usually deal in worlds with only two goods, and it's not very realistic. We're never going to see that in the real world, but it helps us analyze the concepts that are taking place here. So first, let's define a production possibilities frontier. This tells us the maximum combination of outputs we can achieve given our specific inputs. Inputs are things like our talents or our resources or etc. Here's a particular production possibilities frontier between two on the y-axis we have our GPA we can achieve, and on the x-axis we have the number of dates we can go on. We see that as we increase our number of dates, we decrease our GPA, because if we go on more dates, we're spending more of our time out, we're spending less of our time studying, and therefore we can assume that our GPA will be negatively affected. So as we go from 12 dates, where it looks like we have a pretty high GPA, if we go up to the production possibilities frontier and over, if we go to 23 dates, we see that we have a GPA of just 1.0, because we're basically spending all of our time dating and none of our time studying. So let's analyze this model a little bit here. This point is what we call attainable and inefficient. We can reach this point, but we're basically just wasting time because we're not on the production possibilities frontier. This point is what we call attainable and efficient. Any point along the production possibilities frontier, we're using our resources efficiently. And this point is just not attainable. We just cannot, with the resources given, we cannot reach this point. An opportunity cost is the next best alternative for gone. So let's take a look at an economy, and in this economy we produce two things, machines and gumballs. So we have these different possibilities, A through E, of different combinations of machines and gumballs we can make with our resources. And we can graph these on a production possibilities frontier. So let's calculate the opportunity cost of each gumball. Well, for possibility B, when we make our first gumball, the opportunity cost is the loss in machines divided by the gain in gumballs. So here we've lost one machine, moving from 10 to 9, and we've gained one gumball, moving from 0 to 1. So that opportunity cost is one machine per gumball. For possibility C, when we make our second gumball, the opportunity cost is now we've lost two machines and we've gained one gumball. So the opportunity cost is two machines per gumball. We can do this over and over. Moving from C to D, we see that our opportunity cost is 3 machines per gumball. And moving from D to E, we see that our opportunity cost is 4 machines per gumball. This brings us to the law of increasing opportunity cost. This says, moving along a PPF, the opportunity cost of an additional unit of a good or service increases as more of that good or service is produced. And this accounts for the bowed out shape of the PPF. So keep that in mind, because that may be on the test. The reason that PPF is shaped like it is because of the law of increasing opportunity cost. We are constrained in our production of machines and gumballs by two things, our resources and our technology. Resources can be one of four things: land, labor, capital, and entrepreneurship. So let's take a look at a different example, food and clothing. Just because all these red points are attainable and efficient doesn't necessarily mean that they're desirable. Let's take this point, point A. Well, this would give us a bunch of fat, naked people because we would be spending all of our resources in food and none of our resources in clothing, and that's definitely not a desirable point. Likewise, point B, well, this would give us a bunch of dead people that were all way too nicely dressed. We'd have a whole bunch of clothing and no food. So we see that even though these points are efficient and attainable, they're not necessarily desirable. So how do we determine at which point to produce? We're going to talk about that in Chapter 3 on supply and demand. And at which point of production is society as well off as possible? We're going to talk about that in Chapter 5 when we talk about the marginal social cost and when we talk about the marginal social benefit.